It has sometimes been observed that people oftentimes seem to prefer even bad treatment, even abuse, unfortunately, even other people's greed and cruelty, rather than genuine kindness and genuine love. Why might that be? First of all, let's briefly take a look at an explanation that is often offered in answer. And that would be that a person is used to bad treatment. For example, when I was a child, I got treated poorly, and therefore now, as an adult, that's what I think love looks like. That's what I'm used to, and therefore I seek it out. And that's why I find myself in one bad relationship after another. Perhaps that has some weight as an explanation. Certainly, things that we are used to, we may well be drawn to, and yet, in connection or in an answer to any one of a variety of such answers that would place all of our problems at the feet of what happened back in the day in childhood, at the feet of our parents, would be the obvious rejoinder that uh, the outcomes are not equal despite the same upbringings. Like, meaning, there are certainly some kids that are treated poorly and then find themselves in a pattern of poor relationships their whole life. But there's very many that are treated poorly and that do not then go seeking bad relationships later on. For every person that tragically abuses their children when they grow up because, quote unquote, they got abused, there are, however, many parents that also got abused as children that say, on the contrary, I will never abuse my children. I went through this. I never want my children to go through it. So then we can't just say that, oh, the way that a person is as an adult is because of what happened in childhood, is because of parents. It's probably, if not certainly, more complicated than that. We are not machines. We are not mechanisms with a simple input output. Put 2 plus 2 into a calculator and get the output 4. Put bad treatment as a child into a person, get the output bad person as an adult. Good treatment, good person. No, it certainly does not seem to be like that. So, what then might be a more sophisticated and subtle potential interpretation in this connection? Here we could ask ourselves, what is the objective of genuine, impersonal love? And by impersonal, wouldn't be meant not personal, as in I'm a person and you're a person and we're going to get personal and get to know each other, but in the sense of a love that is not actually simply animalistic, clasping and grasping. Right? For example, I say that I love, or a little kid says, I love my teddy bear, I love my stuffed animal, my doll, my blanket. Right? But we understand that's just an attachment. Right? My blankie makes me feel comfortable as a kid, and that's why I say I love it. You take it from me, I'm going to scream and yell and cry potentially, but not because I care about the blanket in, again, an impersonal way, but because I just have this attachment. So, love that is not like that. Love that is, in some sense, impersonal. What is its objective? One way to put it would be, of course, that love does not have an objective in the conventional, sense of I'm going to earn something, right? I'm going to accomplish something. Love is good with simply being with the object of or the person that is loved, just spending time with the person that is loved, and yet being that we are um, or we exist in time, right? We exist in light of development, we change. That probably has something to do with the kind of love that is available to us. Meaning, love in that higher sense probably would not be a static, unchanging simply kind of condition, right? Like maybe just, a magnet that constantly emits magneticism, but might rather be thought of as a dynamic uh, relationship, a dynamic force that is in light of the other person and is in light of oneself and is in light of what's going on. So, anyhow, what then would be the objective of that kind of love? One way to put it would seem to be that uh, real love demands, to put it a little dramatically, at least a little bit of death, right? Meaning, real love calls for a person, be that person oneself or be that person another, to truly mature and to truly grow. And true maturation and true growth is not a question of acquiring a new self image. I, the very kind person, I, the very mature person, I, the very self knowledgeable person. It calls for sacrifice. It calls for sacrificing the lower to the higher. Simple example, to become a big kid as a little kid, I need to go. For some time, I might be both. Right? A tween or even a teen. I'm mostly like 70% grown up, 30% still a baby. But ultimately, to grow up, obviously, to be an adult, I can't also remain an infant. It's incoherent. One needs to go. Would I be an adult? I can't be an infant. Or even would I be a teenager? Can't be an infant. Would I be an adult? I need to stop being a teenager. So to really grow up and mature, parts of us need to die. They need to be cut off. They need to be outgrown. Excuse me, whatever kind of a metaphor or terminology we prefer. For a caterpillar to become a butterfly and fly and maybe be a beautiful monarch butterfly, the caterpillar in the capacity of caterpillar has to go. Right? For those caterpillars that do undergo or have that potential to undergo metamorphosis. Right? For a baby chicken in the egg, a chick embryo to become a chicken that walks and pecks and such, it has to break out of its egg. It can't be in its egg anymore. So it's the same with us. Real maturation is like a process of metamorphosis that demands some degree of death and a gradually increasing such degree of death. Myself, the old person, with all of my fixations and likes and dislikes and hatreds and hobbies, maybe even, and interests and ideals and desires, that self, I need to consent to it ultimately being sacrificed. Would I be more mature? Truly. And as was mentioned, that would seem to be that which real love seeks. Real maturity. Real love does not want the person that is loved, again, be it oneself or somebody else, to always remain an infant, no matter how cute the infant is. A mother that truly loves her child does not want the child to always be a dependent, helpless newborn, even as a teen, even as an adult. Certainly, there are, unfortunately, mothers just like that. What we call those mothers, perhaps even criminal. Right? There's a term for it, whatever devouring mother. Right? We call them, or we use a negative connotation for mothers like that because we understand, aside from special cases of genuine disability and such, a mother that holds her child down because of this attachment, that's not real love. Right? A friend that wants his or her friend to remain, say, in poor health, or to remain broke, or to remain uneducated, or to remain in the bottom rungs of professional success is not a good friend and does not really love his or her friend, because a good friend wants his or her friend to mature, to grow, to sacrifice the lower. Right? Sacrifice your stupidity, sacrifice your brokenness, sacrifice all that and become better. And hopefully I'll be along for the journey. So all such real love, it seems, does demand or ask for, or at least desire, if not demand, growth. Right? It aspires for the maturation and the progression of the one that is loved, even at the expense of those lower phases of maturation. No matter how cute my infant is as a mother, if I really love my infant, I want my infant to eventually not be an infant and to become strong and smart and powerful. No matter how much it may make me feel better that right now my friend is in the same ship as am I. We're both, let's say, not so healthy, not so employed, not so professionally and personally successful. Right? We both can't find our significant other, no matter how much it may bring me comfort that we're both in the same ship. If I really love my friend, I want my friend to get ahead. Right? Even if you leave me behind, right? You find your significant other and I haven't. You find your dream job and I haven't. If I'm a good friend and I love my friend, that is what I want. So, to tie it back to the original question, why is it that so many of us seem to prefer the worst treatment, or at least not good treatment, if not per se abuse, insults, greed, selfishness, narcissism, as it's called, whatever the case might be? We prefer any and all of that to genuine love of the sort that was a little bit described. The answer that is suggested, or the interpretation that seems to be suggested, is that that is because that kind of love would call for me, that person in question who prefers the bad to the good, it would call for me to grow. It would call for me to mature and to change at the expense of who I am now. It would call for me to die in some real sense to what I am now, to live onto something higher. And that is, of course, the primary ethical dilemma of human life. That's what it's all about. And most of us do not want that. And most of us say no to that growth and to that maturation. And consequently, concomitantly, meaning as a associated byproduct, we say no to the kind of love that would demand that from us, or even not necessarily demand, desire that for us, aspire for that for us. You get the idea? So again, it may be that uh, I don't like, on some level, the relationships that I have. I don't like being treated poorly. I don't like being surrounded by any of the aforementioned, the greed, the selfishness, the narcissism, and so forth. But I prefer that a billion times over real love that would ask me to die to self, so to speak, that would ask me to truly mature and grow and abandon my present self with all of its desires and fixations and all of that. I would prefer, and I do prefer, the former, and that is why I continue to seek it out. And if ever in my life I encounter any cases of genuine love, of genuine desire for my good and for my growth, chances are, in this frame of mind with this attitude, I will flee from it. I will run from it faster than from pursuing a rabid dog or what have we, right? Because it's the ultimate no no. I want to remain the way that I am, bad as I am to myself and for myself. And consequently, I will and am willing to endure the same from any amount of other people, the same old bad relationships, the same old emotional abuse, the same old nonsense from my friends, or so called, and so forth, rather than to genuinely grow and to genuinely mature, such as real love calls for. So, in short summary, an alternative answer to why we keep pursuing negative relationships and why we are complacent concerning them is that rather than blaming one's parents, rather than blaming one's upbringing, rather than saying, oh, this is because this is what I recognize as love, it could be that, irrespective of anything in the past, today, this moment, I do not want to genuinely mature, or at least I do not want to, if that maturation calls for that death of self, the Silkulit. I want to remain the way that I am, and consequently, I refuse the claims of love, either from myself concerning myself or from others concerning me. And I stay with what does not make such claims upon me. So we can do with that as we will, and we can think about it. Thank you for listening.